Welcome to City Life. I'm Beverly Thompson. If you had more than $300 million, how would you spend it? Now the catch is it has to be on programs and services for Durham residents. Well, your City Council recently approved the city's annual plan to provide such services, such as police and fire protection, parks and recreation, street repairs, water, and so on. So many services that you've come to expect every day. Here to talk about how the City of Durham is spending your tax dollars in the coming year and what it will mean for your wallet and your community is City Manager Tom Bonfield. Welcome, Tom, and thank you for joining me.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Well, Tom, I have to say, probably the most important thing people want to hear, and probably are glad to hear, is that there's no tax increase.
Well, there's no property tax increase for
right,
sure.
No
as
property
part of this
tax.
budget. And you know, we recognize the challenging times that that we have faced as a community, as a country. And as we start to come out of the recession and all of the things that people want to do, we still know that taxes are the things that people least like to pay. And we're fortunate in Durham that many of our residents in the community, you know, maybe are not quite as anti-tax as we see in other parts of the country. They do see some value in what their property taxes pay for, but at the same time, we want to be responsible with the budget. Even though property taxes are one of our major sources of income, we you know, are very sensitive to that, try to be very transparent about how taxes support the system. One of the things that we have done over the last couple of years is we separate the tax rate into the tax rates that just support the general operations of the city, the tax rate that supports debt, the tax rate that supports our transit system, and the tax rate that supports housing.
Okay.
And that's a way that we feel like we can better be transparent and communicate with citizens and residents about how where their taxes are being spent.
Okay, before we get into that level of detail, I want to talk to you first about community involvement. And this is such an important factor, I think, to your coming up with the city's budget. And I know this year we took it to a whole new level with an e-town hall. Can you talk a little bit about that and how it went?
Know, we're really fortunate and proud of the level of engagement that that we have around the budget process. We have received national recognition about being an engaged community. It takes two sides to that. It takes, you know, a citizenry who wants to be engaged in the process, as well as the city administration, city council, who want to hear from the public about and involve the public in the process. So this year, in addition to the more traditional things around coffees with council and all that, we did move to have what we call the e-town hall budget meeting. That took place on June the 3rd. Turned out to be very well received. It was taking advantage of some of the new technologies that are out there for social media, other ways for community to be engaged. One of the things that we really were trying to do is find new ways to have people be engaged that wouldn't otherwise be engaged, and I think we had a lot of success with that.
Did the state's economy or state taxes or revenues have a lot to do with this year's budget? Did it have a lot of impact on it?
Well, I mean, there were several things that impacted the overall development of the budget. This was not an easy budget to put together this year. Starting at the federal government level and the sequestration issues that we had to deal with, then issues around the state, not so much the state policy, but just generally the overall state economy. You know, we really haven't seen sales tax growth, for example, you know, grow to the level that we had hoped. We're still probably back in 2008 levels of sales tax collection. At the same time, while we see a lot of new construction going on around town, we have not gotten to the point that we're starting to receive tax benefits from that. So we had a very constrained revenue stream that we had to develop a budget around. Starting the process, I think we were, you know, some $4 or $5 million out of whack, but ultimately the budget was balanced, and it was approved by the city council, and we're off and running for the new year.
Great. Now let's talk about employees. How are they impacted by the budget?
You know, we have some unbelievably great employees. Our employees continue to perform at a level that just it amazes me almost every day with just how great our employees are. 2,400 employees who are committed to excellence and service to this community. The budget this year, we had hoped to get back to a more robust pay plan increase, which we have really been stymied over the last several years. But unfortunately, we couldn't quite get where we wanted to be. We did get to 2% pay raise option for general employees, 3 to 5% pay raises for the public safety employees. So, you know, at least that's keeping pace with inflation. We want to do more. We want to get back to a true pay for performance system with our employees. And hopefully over the next couple of years, as revenues and the economy begins to pick up, we'll be able to do that. The one bright spot, the city's health insurance fund, we're self-insured. And it's something that we went to about 3 years ago. We have saved tens of millions of dollars as a result of that. And really because of performance, because of the way our employees have utilized the health system in a responsible way, and because of going to this self-managed system, we're able for the second year in a row to not have any increase in our health insurance premiums for our employees. And that's something that there are, you know, very few businesses in the area that can make that claim. We're very proud of that.
Yeah, that's awesome. I know in the private sector would love to make that kind of claim. Let's talk about your partners now, like the schools and the county. How will we continue to partner with them?
And there are so many great partnerships that exist between the city, the county, and Durham Public Schools. Starting this year, we began to jointly align our strategic plans. Each of us have a strategic plan. We've got a number of initiatives now where we're working very closely together. At the same time, we have tremendous partnerships with Durham County to in some cases have departments that are co-departments in the planning department, inspections, and many others. But we also look for opportunities to jointly fund public services so that we can avoid duplication. We can be more efficient about those things. And certainly this year's budget continues many of those around issues around sustainability. And as I said, many other areas. Youth opportunity is another new area that we're hoping to partner with the county to develop better programming, but more efficient use of resources.
As far as jobs go, how does this budget contribute to that, and just the overall impact on the economy?
And there's no question that we'll talk about public safety in a minute, I'm sure, but the other piece that we hear so much about is jobs and the economy, and what can the city do to help improve the economy? What can the city do to create jobs? Well, the city can't really create jobs, but we can try to create an environment that is supportive of job creation. You know, there are some times that we have incentives that we provide businesses for starting new businesses, creating new jobs. We have our partners at the Greater Durham Chamber of Commerce, as well as Downtown Durham Inc. You know, who are our partners in helping create that environment? Certainly, there are things that this budget supports with retail grants and facade grants, those kinds of things in the downtown area that we've come to know. We've expanded that to be out in the community and some of our more suburban areas that have some challenges as well. So there are a number of areas that we do support job creation. At the same time, the city runs the Job Link Center. We have our workforce development programs that are very effective, that help people who want to come to us and look for opportunities to be retrained, to be placed in jobs where there are actually jobs in the community. And then the other big thing that this year we've transitioned in what used to be called the Mayor's Summer Youth Program, now evolved into a Durham Youth Work Internship Program. So it's expanding significantly so that we can provide the youth in Durham opportunities to gain work experience, to have internships, so that when they are in a place that they'll be ready and positioned to take advantage of those new jobs in the community.
Okay, all right. Tom, we're going to take a quick break. Okay, we're going to take a quick break now, but when we come back, we're going to take a look at how this budget is going to help keep Durham safe and secure. We'll be right back.
This can't be happening. This can't be happening.
Of course it's not happening. Armored car. Listen, having money isn't about luck. Make your own coffee, save $1,000 a year. Feed me. Feed the pig.
Without gun violence, people are whole. Without gun violence, families are intact. Without gun violence, communities are solid. Without gun violence, futures are secure.
Together, we can reverse the effects of gun violence in our community. Join Project Safe Neighborhoods campaign in the fight against gun crime.
A message from the City of Durham Police Department.
Welcome back to City Life. We've been talking about Durham's recently approved budget and how it's going to impact you and your family. Joining me again is City Manager Tom Bonfield. Thanks, Tom, for staying with me.
Yeah, thank you.
Tom, I know a safe and secure community continues to be a top priority for the community as well as for the city. Talk to our viewers a little bit about how this budget is going to have an impact on our ability to provide that.
Sure, and there is no question that when we get out and talk in the community about budget, public safety is the highest of the priorities. And we're very fortunate this year that that funding was made available for continuing existing programs. All of our public safety programs, all the staffing in the police department, the fire department, emergency 911 center, all of that was completely funded. Also this year we were able to provide some additional resources in the 911 center as well as to be able to begin expanding our forensic unit. So many times preventing crime is important, but solving crimes is even more important. And the forensic unit expansion will take place over the next 2 or 3 years, but there are resources in this budget that will help that expansion. The other good news is that there's a number of new capital physical facilities, public safety facilities that are going to begin to be planned and designed as a part of this year's budget. That includes a new police headquarters building, includes a new 911 emergency communications center, and a new fire station down in southeast Durham. Now these buildings aren't all going to be built this year, but the funding was put in place to begin the process for the design. And so over the next couple of years, the community will see these new facilities come on board, and something that will further protect the community and provide good public safety.
And I think a good thing is we've already reached out to the community to talk about some of those things, like the police
the
headquarters.
involvement of the community in all of these kinds of decisions continues to be very critical.
That's really good. A big issue for many people is the state of the judicial system in Durham. Many believe it's underfunded, and we tend to think that we're passing that tax burden on to taxpayers. How is this budget helping with courts?
Well, I think we do believe in Durham that we have an underfunded judicial system, and that includes both the staffing at the district attorney's office as well as the staffing of judges and prosecutors and all those kinds of positions. The city has been very fortunate over the last couple of years to obtain a number of grants that help support the judicial system. Some of those grants will be continuing through the year. A few of the other ones are going to expire. At the same time, where we haven't been able to get grants, the City Council has been very, very supportive of the judicial system and has provided regular city operating revenues to support them. We provide funding, for example, for an additional judge just to hear domestic violence cases. We provide funding and support for gang reduction strategy work. We provide funding for a gang prosecutor, for domestic violence prosecutors in some cases. So there's a number of areas that Durham is stepping out, going way beyond our responsibilities, but providing those extra resources. And so to some degree, Durham taxpayers are helping to support that above and beyond what you would normally expect, because we do have an underfunded judicial system in Durham County.
Is it fair?
Well, you could argue fair or not, but it's something that's important to the community. The community, continues to say that this is their highest priority, the public safety arena. Then I think it's the right thing to do.
Okay, all right. I know another high priority is, of course, neighborhoods. How is this budget helping neighborhoods?
Absolutely. Neighborhood involvement, neighborhood improvement is a big part of our strategic plan, and it's certainly funded in this budget. Everything from the code enforcement programs to the proactive rental inspection programs in neighborhoods is important. There's economic development funding to help with some smaller incentive programs and some of the shopping centers, those kinds of things around town. And certainly you can't get too far away from neighborhoods without talking about housing, and the housing programs that have been committed with the penny for housing, whether you're talking about the South Side neighborhood and community, which is beginning to take shape. That's going to completely transform the South Side area, but many other programs that are geared toward developing more affordable housing in and around our neighborhoods, to deal with the boarded up housing, to deal with the litter and debris that might be put out on the sides of roads. All of those things are funded in this budget and are really important to help improve the quality of all neighborhoods in Durham.
Since you mentioned Southside, is there anything you'd like to say about where we are with that?
Yeah, the South Side project is something that we've been working on in the 5 years I've been here, and the council has established it as a high priority. We're very pleased to be under construction. People who drive down that area, I'm sure if they haven't been down there lately, ought to go by and look.
Oh, yeah.
Things are coming out of the ground. Obviously, the rain we've experienced this summer has been a real challenge for us to keep on schedule. We're going to continue to push that with the hope that we do have buildings complete by the end of the calendar year.
So it's moving right along, huh?
It's moving along, sometimes a little sloggy.
Wishful thinking here, yeah. To get back to the budget, I know that we're going to have a new solid waste fee that
Yes.
is coming online. How much is this fee and why was it needed?
So probably the biggest change, one of the biggest changes in philosophy and the biggest change in the budget this year was for the first time, the establishment of a solid waste fee. Durham is one of the last cities in North Carolina to actually charge a fee for solid waste and not just incorporate that into the tax rate. But we are to the point that the city could no longer just support solid waste based on property taxes. There's a lot of reasons to that. We don't have time to get into too much of that today, but the administration recommended $1.50 per month solid waste fee for residential properties, not commercial properties, because they already pay their own solid waste, or multifamily, they pay their own solid waste. And it really was designed to help us pay for the fleet. We have 35 or 40 solid waste vehicles that are up and down streets in Durham every single day. We were having some challenges keeping those vehicles on the road, so we had recommended establishing this capital recovery fee for solid waste. But at the same time, we might talk about that in a minute too, the transit system, data system continues to be challenging for us to have enough resources to pay for buses and operate the bus system. So one of the things the City Council did as a part of the budget process is that they adjusted the solid waste fee actually a little bit higher so that we could move additional property tax money to support the bus system and not have to raise bus fares that we had initially recommended as a part of the budget. So we're asking the residents to be patient, understand what we're trying to do. Certainly if you compare to our neighbors around, we're still at $1.80, I think is the new rate, going to be cheaper than almost everybody in the state of North Carolina. But it is a way of beginning to charge user fees instead of property taxes to solve every financing need in the city.
Were there any increases with transit?
There were a couple of minor other increases in transit. There was the Go Pass, which is something that principally affects Duke University and the ability of Duke employees and students to use the city bus system. There was an increase there. And then there was a fairly, well, minor, but an increase in the state fair bus route. But other than that, the City Council was very, very determined to not have to raise bus fares, because we recognize that the transit system, the data system, is an important service. For the most part, really is something that are least able to pay use the most in the community. And so the council was very sensitive about not wanting to raise bus fares.
Okay. What about parking decks?
So parking is another one that we continue to try to look to make the parking system self-sustained. Over the years, the property taxes have subsidized parking in downtown. But in 2015 or 2016, have all of parking be completely self-supporting. And so as a result of that, we've recommended, the budget recommends, increasing the monthly rates for parking downtown about $10 a month. If you compare our parking rates to the other big cities in North Carolina, we're incredibly reasonable. But it's something that we've got to begin moving to find these other revenue sources, particularly where we know they're directly related to the service received, user fee, so to speak, to generate that revenue, so we don't have to go back and continually rely on property tax to pay for those needs.
I'm noticing that there's a lot of forethought put into not just this budget, but thinking ahead, planning ahead down the road to what our needs are going to be and figuring out how to pay for it.
Absolutely. One of the things that we have stressed, and the City Council definitely has become committed to, is long-term financial planning. We have developed a 5-year financial plan that anytime we make a decision, we don't think about just does it balance this year's budget or how does it affect this year's budget. We think about, can we afford it down the road in the future. So financial planning Planning for debt is also another big important component of what we do. And it all ties back to our strategic plan. I mean, we are, as a community, as a government entity, very, very focused on the long term. Certainly current decisions are important, but the ramifications or the implications of what they mean long term are just as important and need to be considered along the way.
Okay, all right, Tom, we're going to take another quick break now, but when we come back, we're going to talk about why you will be paying a little more in your water bill. We'll be right back.
Pull your face mask down. All right. What about the chest guard? It looks loose. Is it loose? All right, what about the shin guards? All right. Okay. Here comes the heat. Bring it in. Bring it in. Good hustle.
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. There are thousands of teens in foster care who would love to put up with you.
Along with weight loss, it's one of the many ways to fight osteoarthritis pain. For more information on managing pain, go to fightarthritispain.org.
Welcome back to City Life. We've been talking about Durham's recently approved budget and how it will affect Durham taxpayers. Joining me again is City Manager Tom Bonfield. Tom, thanks again for staying with me.
You're welcome.
I know it seems like a long show, but we're going to get through it, okay? I know a big part of the budget is maintaining city buildings and parking decks and all of the city's infrastructure. So why is that so important?
Well, you know, the city owns a lot of stuff. I mean, quite frankly, we have a lot of buildings, a lot of, as you say, infrastructure that, for the average resident, you just take it for granted. It's just there.
It's going to be there.
But the truth of the matter is, it's all part of the infrastructure that it takes to provide services and provide opportunities, if we're talking about recreation centers, for our community. For a long time, I would have to say the city didn't do a very good job of keeping up. You know, it's one of those things that you think you can put it off for next year, whether it's fixing your car or whatever, but sooner or later, it breaks. And when it breaks, it usually costs more to fix than if you did fix it the first time. So we've really tried to focus on getting all of our infrastructure, whether it's our buildings, our parks, our roadways, up to a level that is acceptable, and then keeping it that way. And so this budget certainly you know, continues in many aspects. Recognizes the importance of keeping what we have clean, safe, repaired, and operational.
And roads are included in that.
Absolutely.
Again this year.
Absolutely. The budget this year includes $750,000 of general operating money to continue resurfacing. In 2010, when we had the road bond, we made the commitment that after we brought all of our streets up to a satisfactory level, so that no street was poor or very poor, that we would then begin the process of providing operating funding for maintaining our city streets. While we had hoped to be at about $1 million a year this year, the budget wouldn't support that. We're at $750,000. I'm still very confident that we're going to continue to meet that commitment. We're looking at a streets evaluation condition survey right now. Once that's complete in a few months, we'll have a better handle on where we are. But we will continue to pave streets. It's coming out of the general operating revenue. No longer we're going to have to borrow money and go out into debt to pave streets.
And another thing people don't like to think about, but we have to pay for, is water and sewer. And I know that's increasing this year, along with stormwater. And talk to our viewers about why that's important.
So, you know, a couple of things. One, that the City Council has made the decision that we would, you know, adjust water and sewer rates just a little bit every year to continue to meet the needs. And principally in water and sewer, it's all about the infrastructure. It's about the capital facilities. It's about making sure that the water plants or the water reclamation facilities work, that they meet the environmental standards, that they are maintained, so that we don't have issues or concerns of not having adequate water supply, not having clean and safe drinking water. The City Council approved a couple $1 a month average increase in the water and sewer fees, and principally that is to pay for a very substantial capital improvement plan. Many of the water lines that we have in the city are over 100 years old, and so we don't have a system to continually replace those water lines and upgrade them. Sooner or later we're going to have a problem. That's why. On the stormwater side, you know, there are many new regulations that pertain to lake cleanups and all of those kinds of things. So at the same time, The City Council has approved just minor increases in our stormwater fee. It's just a few dollars a month that it will go up. Again, it's better, we believe, to adjust those rates just slightly every year than not do it for 5 years and then have to have a significant increase in any particular year. And that's to make sure that we have the revenues primarily to address the capital needs of those major utilities.
And you speak of capital needs, and you mentioned some of these briefly a little earlier, but I know we're looking at roughly $53 million worth of capital improvement projects, and one of those is the police headquarters and other.
And just to be clear, none of those capital projects are paid for by water, not water and sewer fees, but but we do have, in addition, some major capital improvements, primarily public safety, principally where they are. But as you indicated, some $50 million in new capital facilities will begin to be planned and built during the coming year.
Sidewalks.
That's right. I'm glad you mentioned that. It costs a lot of money to build a mile of sidewalk. The City Council is very committed to develop strategies to improve bike lanes, sidewalks, and pedestrian opportunities. Fortunately, this year we have some money for sidewalks, but we're going to continue to look for more.
It takes a lot of money to run a city, doesn't it?
Over $300 million a year.
And that's a good thing. We have you at the helm looking at how we need to spend it. Tom, for our viewers right now, if they want any more information about the final budget, how can they get it?
There are many ways. Certainly the simplest way probably is to go to the website. The budget is completed and posted on the website. They could call the city manager's office. We'll have copies of budgets at the public libraries. Any particular area about the budget, sometimes the public sees this 500 or 600 page budget document and says, nope, not for me. But there are literally hundreds and hundreds of services that make up that budget that people have an interest in, and we have, like I said before, an unbelievable staff who welcomes public participation, who loves talking about what they do. And so if there's anybody in the public who wants to know more about a particular service or why certain things happen, call us. If you got a problem with a service, you can call Durham One Call, and we'll respond to it. But if you just want to know, send us an email. Send me an email. We would be glad to help the public, the residents of the community, understand where their money is going, because at the end of the day, it is their money.
I was going to say it's a community budget.
Absolutely.
Definitely. Any other fine points you'd like to make, or did you cover everything?
I think that that covers it. We're pleased with the budget. I think the budget is a responsible budget. We are going to be very transparent about how it's spent, and as always, we look forward to hearing from the public about how we're doing in all aspects of the city.
Tom, thank you so much for being with me.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Well, that does it for this edition of City Life. Don't forget to like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. You can also find us on demand on DTVA's website and on YouTube. I'm Beverly Thompson. Thank you for joining me to learn more about City Life in Durham.